All right, so this is a question I get asked a lot, and that is how do we make a sphere or a ball in Onshape? So it's actually quite simple. The idea is that we're going to create a flat slice of a circle, and then we're going to use the revolve tool to revolve it around a central axis to create the whole spherical form. So to do that, since we have to start out flat, I'm going to create a sketch. So I'll click on sketch, and I'm just going to pick the front plane here. The word got covered up, but it's right here. For the most part, the front plane is good, but you can pick any of these planes depending on what else you're going to do with it. At the end of this video, I may show some little bonus tips too. So to start out, we're going to draw a line, and I like to start the line right on the origin here so that it can't move around. This line is going to be both the center of the sphere that we spin it around, as well as the diameter of the sphere, so the distance across it. We're not going to worry about how big it is now. I'm just going to click, and then I'm going to turn off my line tool either by clicking it or hitting escape. The next step is to create our half circle or an arc on this. We don't want to use the 3-point arc. It doesn't work as well as the center point arc. With the center point arc, which I got from the drop down there, I'm just going to hover around on this line until right there, the dot in the midpoint of my line lit up. I'm going to click there to place the center. Think of this like a pencil compass. You just put the point of the pencil compass on the middle. And now you're going to swing your arc up, and you're going to lock one side onto one end, and then you're going to swing it down, and you're going to lock one side onto another. And you might notice every time I click, there's a little gray circle around my cursor. So that should help you know where to click. Now we can just dimension this line, and that is going to lock the actual size of our sphere. So this is the distance from one side of the sphere to the other. If you could measure perfectly 2 points across it, let's just make it 50 millimeters because it's easy. And that is the basic shape that we're going to use. And now it's just one more step before we can make this thing 3D. And that last step is to pick the revolve tool up here. So I'm going to click on that. It asks first for a region that we're going to revolve, and then we're going to pick the axis after that. So I'm going to click here when this lights up. And now I need to click in this box in order to pick the revolve axis. It does not automatically move to that box. You have to click inside there. And this is that central axis. And once I click that, you see the sphere forms, and we can click the check mark, and that is going to create that sphere in space there. There are a couple other techniques that I get asked about sometimes. One of them is how would I put a hole into this sphere? So a good way to put a hole into the sphere is to just go and create a sketch. Again, we can use that front plane because that's right smack in the middle of the sphere. So I'm going to make a sketch on the front plane. I'm going to switch my view to the front, and then I'm going to place a circle whereabout I would want to make that hole. If you need to center this on the sphere, there's some other techniques you can use that I'm not going to talk about here. This is just to put a basic hole, and this is a little sloppy because I'm not going to actually lock the position of this down. We can click the dimension tool and click the outside of that circle to set the size of the hole exactly. 4 or 5 millimeters is good for a piece of string to go through it, some standard cotton string. And now, like I said, we're not locking this down, so this can move. But sometimes you don't need to lock it down if you're just quickly making a toy. Otherwise, we'd want to dimension the distance for the center from the bottom and from the side, and that gets a little dicey. So we're just going to leave it there. Click the check mark. And then if we want this to be a hole that goes all the way through, I'm going to use the extrude tool, and I'm going to pick remove. And then right now that sketch isn't lighting up because it's like behind the object. Sometimes you can select other. And even there, it's not, oh, there, that would pop up with the sketch. But the best way to do this is to just pick sketch 2 from over there. And you see now it's making a hole in one direction. So we either need to change this to symmetric and then drag it so it pops out on both sides, or we could have left it at blind and added a second end position. And you see this other arrow up here. That allows us to have it come out the other side. So those are the 2 ways you can do that. And that gives us a hole that goes straight through there. The last question I often get too, some people need to split a sphere in half to say create 2 halves of a sphere for some reason. There's actually a tool called split. So I'm just clicking in the search box up here, and I'm going to click split or type split. And then this lets you pick a part or surface you're going to split. So I'm going to pick this part. And then I'm going to pick the entity to split with. An entity is a fancy word of saying a thing. And in this case, this front plane works well. And you see a line up here. And what this does, my face is in the way, but we used to have one part, but now we have one half and the other half. And we could hide those to work with those. And then you can even do more things, like you could hollow this out. You could click up here. Where is it? On the shell. There we go, the shell tool. And this asks you for faces you want to remove as well as how thick you want it to be. So if I want to remove this face to create like a hollow sphere, I can do it on that part. We'll leave 2.5 millimeters for the thickness, but I could bring this up higher. Like if I wanted it to have thicker sides or thinner sides, let's do 1.5. That's one thing. And then once you do that on one part, you can hide that part and unhide the other part, and you could do that to the other half of it. So there's a lot of different things that you can do here. So that's creating that. What did I say, 1.5? And that would give us matching halves. And if you wanted these to be able to clip together or clamp together, that's another thing. You'd need to create a little ledge around there so they fit together, but I'm not going to show that in this video. This is just about spheres. But those are the basics of creating some kind of sphere, depending on what your needs are. So I hope this helps.